Assalamu alaikum, top of the morning page. As you know, this is Knowledge, aka Alim. That's the only two names I respond to. It's Knowledge or Alim. So it's either my Muslim name or my attribute. That's the only two names I respond to. Or, if you know me in a professional setting, my last name. My legal first name, if you're not saying it properly, it's like you're brushing your head up, so therefore, I'd rather just go with my Muslim name or my attribute. So, my attribute is knowledge. As you know, it used to be King Knowledge. I was part of the Land Kings for 25 years. So now it's just Noble Knowledge. So I'm now with the Noble Young Lords Party. And I'm Muslim, so it's Alim. So you can either address me by my Muslim name, Alim, A-L-I-M, or you can address me by my attribute, which is knowledge. That's the only two names I respond to. Getting some fresh air, drinking some coffee. About to go back to bed. I'm dead tired. Sleep deprivation, you heard? Let's see if y'all can manifest who that is. And let's see if y'all can manifest. Y'all can manifest what that is and decipher why the painting is like that. Let's see, you heard? Hit me up, we could build. As you know, that's Arturo Schomburg, an Afro-Boricua just like myself. And you know, he was from Borinquen, which means the land of the brave and noble lords. And when he was young, they told him that there wasn't no Nubian history, you know, so-called African history, because it's called Akabalan. So it was like no Nubian history, no so-called black history. So what he did was he did his research, and that's how you have the Schomburg Library for Black Studies. He was very educated and linguistic. And then, as far as the woman above, as what they call the traditional garments for the Afro-Boricuas, right? And as you know, that prior to slavery, there was Moors, right? And as you know, when the Morenos, was in Spain, along with the Arabs and the Berbers, it was Islamic Spain from the year 700 to 1492. As you know, when 1492 came about, you know, they had to do the weak conquest, push the Muslims and the Jews out. But then with the Muslims, particularly the Moors, because there was the Nubian Muslims, the black Muslims, the African Muslims, and you know, they took them to the slave plantation. And those that kept rebelling, instead of taking them straight to, let's say, United States or straight to Brazil or the Caribbean, whatever the case may be, they took them to an offshoot island to try to make them submit to either convert to Christianity or become what they call Morisco, which those are people that converted to Catholicism, and they were still practicing Islam on the down low. And many people just got executed, exiled. So that's the reason why you see those garments. That's the African way of wearing a hijab and being covered 3/4. And then the Vejigante, right? The Vejigante in PR, the Vejigante represents the Moors, the Muslims, right? And then you know what's crazy? The thing that's ludicrous is that they honor James Juan Matamora, James, the Moor Slayer. Yeah, that's who they honor. That's crazy, right? That's what you call Stockholm Syndrome, that people don't even know. So all them festivals that we be celebrating PR for Juan Matamoro, James, the Moor Slayer, that's what you call Stockholm Syndrome, for real, for real. Just giving you a little history on Afro Boricuas. So yes, Islam is universal. So what happened was, after the Golden Era, when King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella got together, and they did the weak conquest with the Crusades, and they pushed the Muslims out, they pushed the Jews out, and the Muslims and Jews had to practice their religion discreetly and pretend like they was Catholics. And those that was found out, they was exiled as well. As you know, at that time, the Catholic Church was just anybody that spoke up. If it was a female spoke up, if you dealt with the herbs, which is intelligence that deal with natural neutrology, like herpetologists, gardening, that's a certain type of intelligence, and dealing with nature. The Wiccans deal with that, but basically they did like a divide and conquer. They make everybody divided. So you have that. Now, so after the Golden Era was gone and transatlantic slave trade came about, what saved Islam to a certain degree, as far as the dynasties and the theocracy, which means democracy with God orientation, opposed to democracy, which is rulership by the demagogues. And what happened is that Islam under the Abbasid Caliphate in the year around 651 AD, there was the Chinese emperor, the Hui people, and his name was Ngusu, I think it was, and it was during the Ming Dynasty that this is when Islam flourished in China. This is when Islam met Chinese culture and flourished even more. So you had the Golden Era from Islamic Spain, and then you had the flourishing era from Islamic China. And of course, you know, when Mao Zedong came about, Mao Zedong was getting rid of every religion. That was Islam, Christianity, Confucius, Buddhism, everything. He just wanted people to be atheists. Now, you have that. Then of course you have the Bangladesh. You got to do the math. I could give you some books to read, such as The Moors in Spain by Stanley Poole, or Spanish Islam. I don't know how to pronounce that name. You just look it up. It's called Spanish Islam. Those are the two that deals with the Latino Muslims here in America and throughout the world. If you also do your research, you also see that in the Caribbean, specifically in Brazil, because Brazil, outside of Akabalan or so-called Africa, that's where they have the most African descendants here in the Western Hemisphere. So Islam was preserved there as well. Islam was also preserved through many different ways in their best capability, because they were being persecuted, mind you. And when Islam was here on the West, here in the United States, the Moors was already over here. They was already free. These was the individuals that was fighting back, the Moors. The Moors was black Muslims. That's where the word Moreno comes from. And the Moors, the Muslims, they basically was dealing with the indigenous people, and they converted basically the Cherokee tribe. And the Cherokee tribe during the what they call the Trail of Tears, when they was, you know, driving all the indigenous people out of their lands, the Muslim tribe, the Cherokee tribe, they was the ones that migrated to Mexico, to where the black Mexicans at, which is Veracruz. That's where you see dark-skinned Mexicans, and they migrated there, and that's where Islam was preserved there. So when you see that now, here in 2025, that Latinos is the fastest growing Muslims to convert to Islam, or should I say revert, because we was Muslims in Spain from 700 to 1492. We was Muslims in Africa. So, and even the indigenous people was converting to Islam at that point, due to Mansa Musa coming over here, due to Abu Bakr coming over here. That's not conjecture, it's facts. And after it was suppressed, Islam here in the West didn't really come about again. It wasn't resurrected amongst the people until, Master Fard, which is an individual Muslim who has a master's degree in his knowledge, and he brought the message. He's not a prophet. He is not Allah incarnate. He's just a vessel, from a Sufi perspective, a vessel that delivered the message to Elijah Muhammad. And Elijah Muhammad was the one that brought Islam to the black community. So therefore, you have Elijah Muhammad first. After Elijah Muhammad, you now have Malcolm X. And after Malcolm X, when he went to Mecca, he took his Shahada. Then he changed his name to Alhaj Malik Shabazz. And after that, after he got assassinated, one of Elijah Muhammad's sons, his name is Imam Warren Dean Muhammad. Imam Warren Dean Muhammad is the individual that took Nation of Islam and brought it to our Islam without getting rid of other teachings from Elijah Muhammad, other than anything that will be deemed as shirk. So from there, you have Al-Islam, and these are the individuals that brought Islam within the black and brown community before the foreigners was here. You already have foreign Muslims that was over here. They was just like in trade, such as working in stores, such as working in restaurants, but they wasn't really doing dawah like that. They wasn't really going into the community, bringing people into Islam. Nation of Islam was doing that. So in fact, basically what you see is happening is that you see the Orthodox community getting people from the Nation of Islam community. So that's what you see what's happening, all right? But mind you that the Orthodox community, right, there is no caliphate. So after the Ottoman Empire went down, after the Golden Era, what happened was that in that particular time, they took the caliphate down, and there has been no caliphate ever since. They just have Islamic State, politicians. They deal with Sharia, but not really deal with the Quran. And this is the reason why Nation of Islam call themselves righteous Muslims, because they say that the Orthodox community have been not dealing with the Quran like that. Same way how the Jews fell off, same way how the Christians fell off. So, Nation of Islam was putting everything right back in check and being righteous, right? So he did that here in the Western Hemisphere. So you have those three. So mind you, as a Muslim, you just must understand that you still must hold up your 5 pillars of Islam, which means La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There is no God or deity worthy of worship but Allah, the higher power. Now, mind you, in the Bible, it says that you are gods but children of the Most High God, right? And the Quran, it says that Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. So, you believe in one God, which is Allah, in Arabic, which means the God, with 99 attributes. There is no Trinity. We do not believe in the Trinity. We believe in the prophets. However, we do not pray to the prophets. Prophet Muhammad was the seal of the prophets. One of the prophets that I like to study from is Suleiman as-Salam, which is also known as Solomon, King Solomon of wisdom. The reason why he fell because he made a deal with the jinn. That's why he fell off. So, but that individual, King Solomon, the reason why, instead of calling him Suleiman, I don't know how to say his name in Hebrew, but the reason why he chose to say Solomon, because as you know, paganism was introduced to Christianity during the Council of Nicaea. The true teachings of Isa or Yeshua was removed because, as you know, Paul, before he was calling himself Paul, his name was Raul, and he was the biggest bounty hunter for those that was following Yeshua ways, Isa ways, so-called Jesus ways. So after he killed most of those that was truly following him and teaching his way, then that's when he came about. Mind you, this is an individual that's a self-appointed disciple. He's not part of the 12. He's self-appointed. And when you look at the Bible, after the Council of Nicaea, he has 13 books is the one that he written. You know, and then you have books by other people. But you only have little sprinklings of what's in there by Yeshua. But mind you that Yeshua stated that he didn't come to change the law, he came to fulfill the law. So he also stated that he had to leave because the Comforter has to come. And when the Comforter come to put everything back right in exact, he will come after that. So the Comforter is none other but Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This is why if you look at history, if you look at that, all right, everything was off, and it was Islam that took off, and it was the light of bringing everybody out of darkness. When Islam went to every other area, it went to out of Mecca into, let's say, Spain and Portugal. That was the golden era. That was when they introduced the world to a university, introduced the world to public bathroom, introduced the world to cleanliness, hygiene, introduced the world to medicine. So many wonders. So within that particular, so within that particular standpoint, when that happened with Islamic Spain, right? You have your Islamic Spain, and then after they ran the Muslims out of Spain, right, during 1492, and then the transatlantic slave trade took place, and then they used the Muslims, the Moors, the Muslim Moors that converted to Catholicism, they call them Moriscos. So they used them to navigate the ships because Christopher Columbus already knew that the Moors was already over here due to Mansa Musa and Abu Bakr. He already knew that. So he already knew they knew how to navigate. So that was that. And when that happened, Islam basically helped Europe come out of the Dark Ages, and basically what compelled them to bring about the Enlightenment stage, right? And then when it was kind of suppressed, Islam went from Spain, the area of Spain. It was still flourishing in some parts of Akabalan or so-called Africa, but the dynasties, as far as where the Caliphate was at, it then went to Bangladesh, right? From Bangladesh, you know, as the Pakistan, India area. As you know, you got Hindus there. You also have Buddhism there. So Islam had its foothold within that particular area as well, and it flourished. And then, but then, you know, you have a denomination called the Ahmadiyya community that comes out of India. And although they do a lot of good deeds, I give them respect for the good deeds. However, they go against the Quran because the Quran says Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet, and they believe Mazali or somebody like that was the Mahdi and another prophet. So therefore, that negates the tenets of Islam. You know, but they do a lot of good things in society and community. They are good people, but they are led astray due to that aspect. Now, the other area where Islam began to flourish once it went from the India area, which is Bangladesh, Pakistan, all the stans, right? Islam then met the Chinese culture. When Islam met the Chinese culture in 651 AD, Islam met with Confucianism, made Islam flourish within the India, within China, and that was due to the Ming dynasty. That was due to the warrior emperor Nguzi and the Abbasid Caliphate, and the immigration of doing the trades, and they also had to utilize the Muslims to work in the government, to work in the ministries and whatnot in China. And it wasn't really until Mao Zedong, although Mao Zedong did his best as far as utilizing Karl Marx, Lenin, and his style of politics, for state politics, he did good. But where he failed that was by shunning all religions. All right? Now, to this day, you still have many architecture that's there, that shows Islam was there. That's in India, that's in China, that's in Spain, that's in Portugal, that's in Brazil, Mexico. And right now, in this era, 2025, 21st century, we had two Latino Islamic institutions. In the 80s and 90s, you have what they call the Latino Islamic Alliance, right? Latino Islamic Alliance, something to that nature. They was based here in East Harlem, but then, you know, probably funds or whatever, they died out. That was the first one. Now the one that's, I gotta say, sturdy, have more funds, is the one that's in Texas. That is the only Spanish speaking, or should I say bilingual, English and Spanish and Arabic, 3 languages spoken at the only Latino Spanish Islamic culture in the United States, which is in Texas. The organization that orchestrating that is Islam and Spanish. They all good people, you know, and you'll see that you could be Muslim, Latino, and still hold on to your culture. Just because you're Muslim doesn't mean you stop being Boricua, Dominican, Cuban, Mexican, whatever the case may be. It's just a religion. Just like Jewish is just a religion. Jewish is not a race of people. Muslim is not a race of people. Just like Christianity is not a race of people. You know? When it comes to politics, you got to call it what it is. The politics is the Zionists. These are individuals who happen to be Jews or not practicing the Jewish ways, but does the politics. Zionists, not the Jewish people. Just like in the Bible, when Jesus went to the rabbis and said, listen, you say you are synagogues of Yahweh, but everything you do is going against the Torah, so you are the synagogues of Satan. The same thing stands today. Those are the Zionists. Those are not the rabbis or the Jewish people that are living by the Torah. Same thing with the corrupted head figures within the church. As you know, by the Council of Nicaea, Catholics, things of that nature. It's not to say everyone's like that, but we're just talking about the heads, political figures, the political state, right? Same thing in Islam, the Sharia law, the theocracy, whether it's the Ottoman Empire or all the different empires that was the Islamic state. That's politics infused with Islam, right? Utilizing rules and regulations. But in the Quran, it also says extremism is also haram. So therefore, the extremists that you see, which also mislead a lot of people to commit suicide, and they thinking they're gonna go to Jannah as being a martyr, and that's false, because in the Quran it says that if you commit suicide, that's haram. So, you know, you could die and fighting for Islam, but killing yourself, you're not going to Jannah. So and being extreme in your ways is also haram as well. So they go against the Islamic teaching. They get too extreme. So those are all politics. So mind you, the religion, Islam, Christianity, or so-called Christianity, Judaism, the above ground, the books is beautiful. However, the people during the times of colonization or oppression or slavery, they were utilizing that to manipulate the people, right? Then that's the reason why you have what they call the underground, the mystical portion of each of those 3 branches. And this is what does come with the spirituality, as far as dealing with God directly without a median, without a middle person, unless you're going to a coach, to a teacher or a master teacher. And that's what happens under Judaism with the Kabbalah. That's what happens with so-called Christianity with Gnosis, which means knowledge. And that's what happens with the Islam, underground, and Sufism. Those 3 right there is what they call esoteric teachings. They're not innovations. They just esoteric. Mind you, in the Bible it says, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, Hosea 4:6. And the Quran it says, as a Muslim, you must seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave, right? And as a Muslim, I must want for others what I want for myself. So therefore, it's my duty to help y'all come out the light and see the light within the history, because it is our duty as a student of life to discover the truth from the historical distortions that's been put out there in the history books and Hollywood, things of that nature. And I think that's good for a morning piece. So that was the build, right? And like I said, I'm Muslim. I still support the Nation of Islam. I still stand the Nation of Islam. I do not pray to Master Fard Muhammad. I do not pray to no man, no human being, period. I do not pray to no angel. I do not pray to no prophet, only pray to Allah directly. And from a Sufi perspective, God lives within. And no, it's not coming from, I think I'm better than others, or try to be condescending. No, I'm just me. Trying to be within my deen. If you know me from back in the days, I was not practicing. When I came home from 2010 to 2018, I wasn't really practicing my deen like that. So when I renewed my Shahada in 2019, from 2019 to now, and still moving forward, I have been practicing my deen. So practicing my deen is basically saying, yo, we all got flaws, we all sinners, the best of all sinners, the one that repent, that's me, that's my religion, that's my way of life. I do not impose my religions on no one, and therefore I appreciate that you impose your ways on me. We could agree to disagree. You know, people not gonna agree on every single thing. That's just how it is. And it's all about communication. It's all about, you know, articulation. It's all about verbal economics. To understand that with verbal economics, that means that words are currency. So when you speak, you should use your words wisely and make sure it holds weight instead of speaking foolishly, and deal on a high level conversation opposed to low level conversation. See, I'm always about uplifting and elevating people. I'm not about bringing people down. I don't throw shade. As a Muslim, I can't backbite. I can't gossip. I can't even throw shade as a Muslim. That's what it states in the Quran. So the only thing I could do is build people, uplift. And if I want to laugh, I'll look at a comedy show or something like that. All right? Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Have a nice one. My name is Alim. A-L-I-M. Or you could say Alim. That's my Muslim name. Or you could just call me Knowledge, which is my attribute. All right? Peace. And look, noble young lords, this black and gold is not gang related, all right? This is a militia. We don't ride a 5, we don't ride a 6. We're protected by the Constitutional Amendment. We engage in activities constitutional. I'm not a left wing, I am not a right wing. We are independent and push for social democracy, and we deal with democratic centralism. And as an individual, I already told you I'm Muslim. And from this black and gold is from the concept of the yin and the yang, the dark and the light, night and day. After chaos, there's order. All right? Have a blessed one. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Noble love. Power to the comrades.